call this meeting to order. We'll begin with adoption of the agenda.
I'll move to adopt the agenda.
I'll second that.
Chairman Heyman,
Aye.
Vice Chair Peters, Director Vallejo,
Aye.
Director St. Amand,
Aye.
Director Itnire. Motion carries.
Okay, moving to item number 3, public comment on closed session. Do we have any public comment from the floor? Seeing none, any public comment on the phones? Caller, go ahead.
Yes, this is Renee Westelusk. I have a question on that second closed session. It says existing litigation. It says name of case Mojave Pistachio LLC versus I guess Indian Wells Valley Water District. Is that the case that was launched against the water district and the GA is just monitoring it, or is the GA actually involved in that?
Would you like me to handle?
Yes, please.
Hi, Renee. That is the groundwater adjudication case. It was originally filed by Mojave Pistachio against the water district, presumably because Mojave Pistachio had bought some property from the water district. They said that they could do this in a simple adjudication without it becoming a grander basin-wide adjudication in their filings. The water district cross-complained, turned that into a basin-wide adjudication, but it still remains with that previous name.
Okay, because I was getting it confused with the settlement that was just reached not too long ago with Mojave Pistachio and the GA. Okay. That's a separate suit. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
So the lawsuit was brought by Mojave Pistachios to establish a limited physical solution which did not involve every pumper in the valley, especially the United States Navy. And in order to bring the Navy into the adjudication, the Water District was required to file a comprehensive lawsuit as is required by state law. And that's why the lawsuit was brought by the Water District. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Renee. We will now move into closed session. It's 11 o'clock. We will now call this meeting back to open session. We will begin with the report out on closed session.
Thank you, Chair. The board met on the 2 items listed on the agenda for closed session. There's no reportable action on those items.
Thank you, sir. Next, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everybody will please stand and face the flag. Okay, next we'll have roll call.
Chairman Heyman,
Present?
Vice Chair Peters,
Present.
Director Vallejo,
Present.
Director St. Amand,
Present.
Director Itnire.
Present.
Okay, we're moving to item number 6. Public comment this time is reserved for the public to address the board about matters not on the agenda. No action will be taken on non-agenda items unless authorized by law. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have any public comment from the floor?
Renee Westelusk. I live within Ridgecrest city limits. I just have a question regarding the cost estimate of the pipeline. Is there going to be any cost estimates given prior to the finishing of the design grant, planning and design grant, or do we have to wait until after that's done?
Who would like to take this?
I can take this. Oh,
So Renee, we are working on completing the design, and we'll be able to come up with better figures once our design is complete. So, but that's the phase that we're working on now.
So we have to wait until the 7.6 million grant plus that supplemental EPA has been used up and completed?
Yes, in fact, the 7.6 million is, that grant is just about completed. We're just wrapping that up, and there's some additional money from EPA. But in terms of the design cost, and maybe I need to clarify, are you talking about the cost of the design or the cost of the pipeline?
The pipeline, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we won't really be able to finalize those costs or our best estimates until we have a design completed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Renee.
My name is Tammy Boyer, and I live in the city limits. How are you going to finance the cost of the project that's not covered by the grant money?
Yeah, I guess, Chairman, do you want us to go into this, or do you want it addressed at another time?
I don't know that it needs to be discussed at this moment.
We can give a little bit of high-level response. I would say this. First, as the design gets more finalized, your estimates of what it's going to cost get more refined and bring down, and you get closer to your number. When you first start off, you always put conservative estimates in there. Conservative meaning more costly than you really think, so you know. You have areas in which you're going to move your design down to get your final estimate. We have already set together what I would say is roughly $150 million from the feds, which will come at some point. It's going to come in different packages. It's not a grant, but it's sort of like a grant. The rest of that money we will ask for through other grants and maybe financing, but we have to get there when we get there. So I wouldn't say at this point that whatever isn't covered by the feds won't actually be assisted by the state at this point. State's given us millions, tens of millions of dollars in grants so far. So it's entirely possible and probable that we will get more grant money to put on top of that federal money.
So if we don't, what is the financing options?
Long-term bonds would probably be what you would generally do.
And who pays for that bond?
We'll have to look at it. It could be water use, it could be per property tax. We need to know what those numbers are.
So it's the citizens of the community in the valley.
You need, those that use water need to pay for their water. So that's the reality of it.
Are there alternatives other than the pipeline?
This is really getting into a long Q&A, but I will say this. For decades now, this basin has known that it does not have enough water naturally to meet its domestic needs. Now, what does that mean? At some point, you keep overdrafting until you start having problems. At some point in time, the problems get too much, and you have to bring augmented supply in or limit the amount of use. That's where we're at.
What about the study that was done by the water district? It says we have adequate supply.
So we're getting really deep into this. There is no study by the water district that says we have an adequate supply for all of the water use in this basin. This basin is using roughly 24 to 28,000 acre foot if you consider Mojave pistachios trees to be mature. There is no manner in which, even the water district has, I will call it an inflated number of 14,000. It is not 14,000 that's going to come in out of this in the end. But even at that number, that's half of the water is missing. And the only way that you get that water then replaced is somebody's got to stop pumping.
So we're guaranteed then to get all of the water that we pay for out of the pipeline.
Mr. Chair, this is going beyond a public
I'm not
comment
sure what your
session.
question now, all the water,
I think we need to.
we're getting deep into Q&A.
So I'm going to probably cut this conversation because I think we're probably getting too far into
Thank
a
you.
discussion, so.
Chairman Heyman, if I can, if you have questions, you are more than welcome to email them to me, and we can get you answers that way and have these discussions via email or over the phone. It's on the GA website. April. It's akegwin@rgs.ca.gov, and it's on the GA website.
Okay, do we have any other public comment from the floor? Do we have any public comment on the phones? Okay, seeing none, we will now move to item number 7, board member comments. Any comments from the board? Okay,
No, none.
okay, seeing Seeing none. Next, we'll move to item number 8, consent agenda. This will be consisting of item number 8A, B, B1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Does any member of the public wish to have an item pulled? Any member of the board wish to have an item pulled?
No, but I'd like to ask a question for clarification.
Go ahead.
So looking at the approved expenditures, other than the city of Ridgecrest, do the rest of the expenditures represent bills that were submitted in December for payment in January?
Are you referring to item B1?
No, we're not, any of the, so B1 City of Ridgecrest, I see there's bills dating back to July, and I assume that's to cover the city's providing a legal representative to the board.
I believe it's a combination, but.
Well, there's
Carol,
$800 for the rent of the room, but,
That's a part of it.
yeah,
But,
okay.
Carol, would you like to clarify that?
Yeah, there's several things that we receive, and they only bill us, I believe, quarterly, so we don't pay it every month.
Okay, and the rest of them are basically our contractors and consultants bill monthly or quarterly as well?
They generally bill monthly. They're not necessarily billing us for the previous month. It's just whatever their billing schedule is.
Mr.
Okay, so
Sanamon,
apart from this, I'm almost done. Apart from the City of Ridgecrest, then the rest of it's December bills. Okay, thank you.
I was just going to point out that these invoices are attached to our agenda.
And I did, and I looked through them, and that's how I became aware of the list of expenses that the City of Ridgecrest has accrued. And there were some November charges and December charges. I just wanted to get clarification. Thank you.
Okay, we'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
Chairman Hayman,
Aye?
Vice Chair Peters,
Aye.
Director Vallejo,
Aye.
Director Saint Amand,
Aye.
Director Etnier.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving to item number 9, board to receive and file the 2024 audit, and this will be with General Manager Carol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will kick this off. We are happy to present the audit for our calendar year, which is also fiscal year 2024. And we have a couple of folks online who are going to present the information. From our auditor's office, we have Mr. Jared Solomonson, and then I believe also to provide additional comment, Roberto Moreno, who is one of our RGS associates who works on the finance team. But Jared, please go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much, Carol. I'm going to do, my name is Jared Solomons. I'm an audit partner with Nigro and Nigro, and we are the auditors for Indian Wells Groundwater Authority. I'm just going to kind of just go over the results and kind of some required information from the auditor, and then Roberta will go into more detail of the audit report. So I'm going to start with the scope of the audit work. We were engaged to perform audit test work of the entities. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
I'm sorry, I thought there was a question. We were engaged to perform the audit test work of the entity's annual financial statements and report. We were engaged to report on the entity's internal control over financial reporting and on compliance in accordance with governing auditing standards. Our responsibility as auditors in accordance with professional standards are 1, to form and express an opinion about whether the annual financial statement results that have been prepared by management are presented fairly in all material respects in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. Our responsibility is to plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the annual financial statements are free of material misstatements. We are to consider the entity's internal controls and segregations of duties over accounting procedures and financial reporting as we perform our test work. Such considerations were solely for the purpose of determining our audit procedures and not to provide any assurance concerning such internal controls. So we evaluate the internal controls to make sure the information provided to us can be relied upon, but we do not issue an opinion on the internal controls themselves. Our opinion is on the financial statements as a whole. Moving on to the audit results, we issued an unmodified opinion on the annual financial reports for 2024. That is a clean opinion. We do not want any modifications to the opinion language. In our opinion, the annual financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. The adopted significant accounting policies have been consistently applied throughout the report and financial records. Estimates are considered reasonable for depreciation, as well as allowance for doubtful accounts. These are non-cash expenses, so they are considered estimates. and all required disclosures are properly reflected in the annual financial statements. Accounting Standard AUC 265, communicating internal control related matters identified in the audit. No material issues arose to be reported to the governing board or to management, and any questions we had throughout the course of the audit were discussed with the finance team and cleared up accordingly. That concludes my statements here. I'm going to pass it off to Roberto to present more detail of the audit report.
Thank you, Jared. If you do have the audit report with you, be more than happy to answer any details. I'd like to just hit a couple of highlights. If I can just share my screen. Let's see, text and images. Yeah, I'd like to see if I could share one of the items is the balance sheet. Just real briefly, the balance sheet is just, actually, let me make sure can you see the balance sheet on your screens there?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the balance sheet, it's a snapshot as of December 31. A few things that stand out is cash went up from 5.7 to 6.5. Your AR is about the same. Grants receivable is DWR grants that are about to be received. So assets stayed about the same. Accounts payable have decreased as of June 30th. As of that point in time, also the amount due to other governments in Note 5, which is basically the city of Ridgecrest. The agency owns Ridgecrest about 1.4 million. And the net position it decreased just slightly. But all in all, the agency is doing fairly well here. That's a snapshot. The other basic statement is your statement of revenues and expenditures and changes in net position. This is basically your income statement. Operating revenues decreased slightly. Operating expenses have increased from 5.7 to 7.7. So therefore, at the end of the day, you can see that there is a slight decrease in the overall net position, the funding available for the agency of 284, but still at a very healthy, ended up $8 million for the year. The other main statement here is the statement of cash flows. It just shows how the cash moved in and out. It's a very simple statement. Now, these are high-level summaries. They'd be more than happy to answer other questions, but that's just a brief overview of the numbers. The main thing to highlight is it is an unqualified opinion, as Jared said, so the numbers are good. Be more than happy to answer any questions or provide additional detail as requested.
Any questions from the board? I don't see any questions, so if you'd like, go ahead.
No questions, Roberto?
Okay. No, that is the presentation then.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, sir.
So we would be looking for the board to receive and file?
Yes. And do we have any public comment from the floor?
I just want to ask, this is Renee West Delusk. I just want to ask about the money he said we owe to the city of Ridgecrest. What does that include? Because I thought we're doing the payments for the room and video and all that.
Yeah, that's correct. And keep in mind that this audit was for 2024, but so we had, it's for the room, for our IT services, for general counsel services, and there was a bit of a backlog, so we were catching up on that and now making current payments as well. But so for 2024, we had some previously to pay.
So for 2025, we're caught up then? We don't owe them other than the monthly?
I believe we're current. April, you can remind me if there's anything that's still outstanding, or we can look at our financial statement.
I believe that that's correct, that we are current and up to date. We did make larger payments, quarterly payments last year as well. So I just don't know if we're 100% caught up, but for the most part, it's pretty well paid down,
Okay.
if anything is left over.
Okay, thank you.
Judy Decker. I have a comment. I think getting the audit to review the morning of the GA meeting is unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Any other public comment from the floor? Do we have any public comment on the phones? Seeing none, that will conclude this item, and there's no action being taken.
Just receive and file.
Thank you.
So thank you for the speed with which this was delivered. I too wish I'd had more time to look it over before the meeting today. I'm wondering if any board members really had a chance to go over the audit before now, since I got it at 5:54 in the morning. And then I think this is, we should have a finance committee that can review these documents before they're presented to the board. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 10, Sustainable Groundwater Management Act Implementation Project, the Sigma IP Grant Amendment. This will be with Bianca with Stetson Engineering.
Members of the board and public, can you guys hear me and see me?
Yes, we can.
Great, okay. So as you know, we've been coordinating with DWR on the IP grant for funding the planning of the imported water project. The work complete date on the IP grant is March 31st, 2026, so that's coming up soon. And we've planned that after the use of the IP grant funds, that the completion of the project would be funded under the EPA Resiliency Grant. So in preparation for the complete date of the IP grant, staff and DWR have determined the need to amend the agreement to go ahead and close out. So the amendment includes this first proposed item, which is to update the list of the final deliverables that are to be provided to DWR, and they're going to reflect the work that is being funded by the grant. So for example, the updated list includes the 60% design plans, the technical environmental studies, and the draft right-of-way acquisition plans that have already been completed. And so based on this proposed amendment, staff has already went ahead and submitted these documents by their December 31st, 2025 due date. The second item that's proposed on this amendment is for a reallocation of funds from the planning budget category towards the administrative budget category. And this is just to make sure that there's funds available for the admin work to complete the final grant progress reporting, invoices, and the completion reports. A copy of the amendment is included in your packet. This copy has been reviewed by DWR and tentatively approved. If you have any questions, I am happy to address them. Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca. We'll bring it back to the board for any questions from board members.
Very simple, some probably silly things almost. This is the second amendment, not the first, is that right?
Yes, this is the second amendment.
And so I think just a little housekeeping on the red line on the headers of the pages, starting at page 2, it still references Amendment 1. Again, very minor detail, but just something to
Definitely.
correct.
Yeah, we'll make sure that the copy that gets to DWR at execution will have Amendment 2 in that header. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, other than that, I don't have any question.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, so this is about the $7.5 million grant for design of the pipeline, is that right? And this is
Yes.
And it's a change in the scope of the project. And you say the state has tentatively, the Department of Water Resources, has tentatively agreed to the change in scope. Is that also correct?
Yes.
So do we have any kind of liability exposure for the changes in scope?
Liability exposure.
The state's not going to come back and demand repayment or anything else from us
No.
because we weren't meeting the original agreement?
No. So with this update of the deliverables and the fact that we have already provided these deliverables that are due before the due date. DWR it, can constitute us completing our grant terms.
Okay, all
Yep.
right.
Bianca, I would add to that, sorry, this,
Nope.
Director, if I may,
Go
this is
ahead.
Jeff Helsley with Stetson. DWR had suggested these changes. So as we're getting to the close of the grant, they wanted to make sure it matched up the, we had used their funds for and what we were delivering. So this is at their suggestion.
So now that I read you, about 60% of the work is complete based on the original agreement.
We have completed the 60% design level.
Okay, and the money has been expended to what level?
As of the last invoice that was provided to DWR back in November of 2025, so just like 2 months ago, there is $400,000 that is available for us to invoice until this March 31st end date.
Okay, and the last question, who is the project manager overseeing the project, this particular project?
I've been the project manager on this since the beginning on behalf of the Groundwater Authority, and Omar with Blue Mountain is now, we're transitioning to him as we start working with the Corps, using his experience with the building projects with the Corps, since the Corps will build this.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I can't read your name from here. My glasses aren't good enough.
Oh, sorry, it's Jeff Helsley with Stetson Engineers.
Jeff Helsley, thank you, sir.
Yeah, just for your information, the name on the grant is the Groundwater Authority, and Carol is the grant administrator.
Okay.
But we're the project management.
Thank you. No more
Good?
questions? Yeah, I'm good.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, we'll move to public comment on the floor. Any public comment from the floor?
My name is Lorraine Horney. I just have a question, and it's my first meeting, so pardon me if it's something you dealt with before. Are you guys saying that the pipeline is a done deal, or are you still looking at other alternatives to see what's most viable?
I don't think that question is directed to us, Stetson. We're doing the design work.
So the answer would be yes, we have looked at other options and extensively over the past many years. The pipeline is the most viable option to provide a solution to water sustainability, and it's part of our GSP.
Okay, so then my next question is, on the replenishment fee, how does what you guys are anticipating, how does that compare to other areas that will be paying replenishment fees also? Are we less? Are we more? Is it based on population?
It's based on cost to purchase water, and projects to get that water into the basin. And so, and other areas may vary a little. I've seen prices that were, as high or higher. Other states substantially higher. So I think it's just based on regional numbers.
But in California alone, like you said, other states, but how do we fare with our neighbors in California? Other neighboring counties or whatever?
Chair, if I may, let me answer the question this way. It's a little unfair of a question to ask because 27 million people in the state of California rely on imported water.
Right.
Most of them paid that and stepped up to the plate decades ago. So they've already paid for their purchase of the water. The replenishment fee is purchasing entitlement to water so that we can bring it into this basin. You're kind of late to the game, so you're paying more because you're paying today's rates, not what somebody paid 30 years ago.
Okay.
As for what the cost really is, we've already had a Court of Appeal opinion about that replenishment fee. And one of the provisions of that Court of Appeal opinion was that it's not really that outrageous, that fee is pretty much what it kind of costs. So we've estimated it at that. We would have preferred not to actually be charging that replenishment fee. We would have preferred to have long-term bonded and then spread that cost instead of over 5 to 6 years over 30 years, which would have lowered everybody's rates. But, you know, those that pay the fee, the water district refused to bond, so we couldn't lower that. So this is what we're paying for. And you saw our balance sheet, you know, we've got money set aside now so that we can go into the market and purchase water. And we are looking at purchasing water. Now, on a side part of what you'd asked, is the pipeline a done deal? I want to say two things. One, we have looked at every alternative that anybody has ever presented and determined that we have to go to the pipeline route. For example, people have said, let's use the DWP pipeline. That doesn't work out because you have to have a constant flow supply, which it won't provide. You'll have to build a $100+ million plant to treat that water. Plus, you have to put a banking project in. All of the costs of that don't pencil out compared to going south.
Okay.
There was a study once to use brackish water and whether or not you should just be taking brackish water out of the basin, which is still your basin supply, so be overdrafting the basin, but treating that to a point at which you could drink it. Wasn't cost effective. Recycled water has been looked at, both for drinking water and for the use by cereals. The use by cereals is beneficial for a couple reasons. One, there's no losses in treatment. When you treat 2,000 acre-foot of water, you get about 1,500 that you can put back into your system. If cereals is using it, they're going to use 2,000. So that's an extra 500 acre-foot of demand that we're going to be able to use, and they don't have to pay the treatment costs. Those treatment costs are very expensive. So that's really where you're at. To answer your question, imported water is a tried and true system in the state of California. It's why we have the Central Valley Project and the State Water Project here. We've got canals everywhere. 27 million people are relying on imported water. This basin is an anomaly not to have imported water.
Okay. And is that the one that's coming from the direction of Cal City?
Cal City will be the connection point to get us into the main system, the backbone of the state of California, which runs down the Central Valley, which is the Central Valley Project and the State Water Project, which move water from the High Sierras, Tahoe area, down to Southern California, where, frankly, we live in a desert.
Can I ask one more question based on that Cal City? If Cal City wants out, can they get out, and then who absorbs their portion of funding that will, now I guess it would bypass them and just come to us? Would we shoulder that?
I guess let me say this. The connection point is at Cal City. Cal City has a pipeline that goes from Cal City to AVEC, and we're connecting into that pipeline.
Okay.
Cal City in the early 70s was one of those that said, we need to get on the import game, so they put that in. It also goes to Edwards.
Okay.
If Cal City decided that they wanted to just go to groundwater in their basin, and they could do so, and they wanted to give up their rights that they have with AVEC for State Water Project water, imported water, we would be a great purchaser for that.
So we'd have our replenishment fee in that as well, or no? Because
Your
it's
replenishment
bypassing-
fee is just buying water. You would use that
Okay.
replenishment fee to pay Cal City for that water.
Okay, I think I get it, and I'll probably email you.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
So, I do have one more question.
I'm going to finish up with public
Okay,
comment.
thank you.
Any other public comment from the floor? Do we have any public comment on the phones? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for any further comments or questions.
Yeah, Mr. Helson, what's the current plan date for completion of design?
Our estimate was the end of this year, but Omar is looking at some of the technical issues. He's looking at, maybe reviewing how we approach a few of the issues to cut the costs. He's going to be coming up with a master schedule here in the next month or so that date may change.
So we have an estimate for the end of 2026, and then Blue Mountain is going to do a replanning session, and they'll have an estimate when they're done with that. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Any idea when that, well, okay. Any idea, has Blue Mountain said when they might have that ready?
Yeah,
I think in the next month.
Blue
Okay.
Mountain's working on that now.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chair, I just want to say to the public, I do appreciate the questions that are coming from the audience at this point. It's unfortunate that you are apparently just chiming in now, because we have had these conversations over the course of many years now these decisions have been made in sometimes contentious, sometimes agreeable settings. Like, pretty much every time we're here, we're talking about these questions and these issues. So this has been a long, involved, very deliberate process. Not everyone agrees with the direction we're heading, but this is a long time coming to where we are today. We have thought through very carefully, debated very stridently, I would say, all of these issues and questions you're bringing up. There is no stone unturned at this point with regard to what options are theoretically available and what ultimately this authority has decided is actually plausible is this pipeline from the south.
Mr. Chairman, this is Steve. If I just might add, because it's important, especially for the audience, to know that this groundwater authority has a top-notch firm in Capital Corps looking for outside funding. They've already gotten, have obtained significant funding for this groundwater authority, and they are on board looking for funding for all of this. So we are working on outside funding to lessen the impacts of the community.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, I'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
I'll move to approve with the typo fix from Amendment 1 to Amendment 2.
I'll second.
This is just, all right, this is, okay. All right.
Chairman Hayman,
Aye.
Vice Chair Peters,
Aye.
Director Vallejo,
Aye.
Director St. Amand,
No.
Director Etnier.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving to item number 11, Urban Community Drought Relief Grant Project updates. This will be with Jeff Helsley. So Jeff, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning to everybody. This is just an update on the $3.3 million Urban Community Drought Relief Program grant that the Groundwater Authority got from the Department of Water Resources. And the purpose of the grant is to consolidate some of the small water systems in with the water district, those water systems that might be impacted by the overpumping in the basin. Oh, thank you. Recapping some of where we've been before is the first project that we had talked to the board about was what we called the Rademacher consolidation. See if I can pull that up a little bit. Oh, that's better. Yeah, and this map shows the Rademacher area. The Rademacher well is called out there. You might recall that, it's actually the Desert Sands Mutual Water Company was using a well there. The water quality in the well became very bad, had arsenic and other things in it. There were 5 homeowners there who were using that well at one time. You might recall that a member of the Sanchez family that is a member of that Mutual Water Company was using the well, came and spoke directly to the board about the problems they were having with water quality and still having to use the water. In order to address that, we split the Rademacher project into phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is shown there in the blue line. It's a short stretch of pipeline coming off of Springer. In all of these consolidations, of course, we're consolidating with the water district. We, cooperating with them to connect to their system. And in fact, for this project, the board authorized a reimbursement agreement with the water district so that the water district could have their consultant, Krieger and Stewart, design this extension of the water district system in order to do the consolidation. And on the case of phase 1 of Rademacher, the water district used their forces to build this pipeline. The pipeline we had anticipated would be started in January of last year. The water district had some issues with the transmission pipeline they needed to address. So the construction got delayed until May of last year, but it is complete as of August. A couple of the water users on that mutual water company that are along Springer Street there got direct connections to the existing pipeline that the water district had. And with the extension of phase one, we've got the other two water users, including the Sanchez family, hooked up to the phase one extension now. The phase two was shown in the dashed red line here, which would come down Gordon Street. It would loop this consolidation pipeline so that it ties in two places to eliminate any dead spots in the system, preserve the water quality. It would pick up the remaining water user from the mutual water company into the water district system and allow any of those other properties in that area as needed to hook up and use water from the water district. There is the estimated cost of this system is about a little over $1.1 million for phase two. There is an issue with some rights of way. There were 3 properties. The districts, I think, obtained right of way and all the right of way they need to construct this, except for 3 properties. One of the users wants, some kind of a guarantee that they can hook up to the water district at no cost, which is, outside of our hands. And then a couple of users have not responded at all to the water district's requests to try and get an easement. They just haven't responded. So we'll be working with the water district and potentially bringing a right-of-way consultant on to address that. Try and find those homeowners and contact them and tell them the benefits of having to their property, the value of the property, to have an alternate source of water available right there. Additional consolidation projects we had talked to the board about was the Stark Street consolidation. If we could go to the next figure. Yeah, there we go. And Stark Street's down there in sort of the lower, or middle left-hand, lower part of it. This area, there's what we call a pumping hole. The groundwater levels are depressed because of pumping in the basin. And actually, the Stark Street Mutual Water Company had come to the board back in 2023 because their ability to pump water had been impacted. They couldn't pump water out of their well anymore. So under our shallow well mitigation program, Stark Street applied and the board authorized a little over $30,000 for re-drilling a well. That well has not been re-drilled. I think there's some issues with trying to get all the rest of the funding that they need. Since that time, the self-help enterprises has been using state money to pay for hauled water and bottled water for the water users in the area. Self-help, our plan, and I think we presented it to the board, had been to build that dashed red line there to go up and connect to those solid red lines that are shown in the figure. Those solid red lines are consolidation that the water district had already been working on. It was to consolidate the Dune 3 water system into the water district's system. The water district, I think their estimate now is they might start on that in the spring. We have some concern that, that there's time to get that system built and then also build the Stark Street system. There was a meeting with the water district and Stetson for the groundwater authority and self-help and DWR's Department of Finance to talk about this, since the Department of Finance for DWR and self-help are spending money on the hauling of water. There was concern about continuing that. I think the water district suggested that dashed blue line that we go over to Calvert Boulevard, and connect into one of their existing lines over there as a way to get this done sooner. They provided us a cost estimate, I think, of $600,000 for that system. Let's get it built. We would need a reimbursement agreement for this project with them, but we anticipate probably be bringing back to the board shortly. One of the things we're evaluating on these is, our grant end date is the end of this year. So we're fast approaching that. We're trying to look at how to fast track these so we get some of this, more of this money used. One of the options we've considered and mentioned to the water district is maybe we bid out the actual construction of both the Stark Street and maybe even phase 2 of the Rademacher project to make it a larger project. And actually, Travis, who's at the city, had said that might make it more attractive to contractors outside of the area to come in and do this project. So that's something we might bring back to the board here in the future now as we're evaluating that also. Self-Help had also pointed out that Yellowbird Co-op is to the left of where we're showing Stark Street there, and that they might be interested in consolidating. So we've asked Self-Help to get us some contacts there and talk further to those folks to see if they want to be incorporated into this so we can expand the consolidation. At least with the Rademacher phase 1, Rademacher phase 2, our estimated cost there, plus the Stark Street estimate, we'd use about, I think it's like 1.8 million of our, about 1.8 million of our 3.3 million. We'd still have about 1.1 million of our grant available. So we are looking to see if there's any other systems, but that would probably take some more time. So we are also going to talk to DWR to see if we can get an extension on our end date for this grant. They initially really wanted to get it wrapped up on time. I think we more recently had somewhat of an indication they might extend it for a short time, but we're going to continue those discussions and get GA staff involved in that and see if we can extend the date so that we can find additional systems to consolidate. This is just an information item. One other issue which had come up when I think as the water district was out doing these consolidations and talking to homeowners, there was a question about whether if someone does hook into one of these extensions of the pipeline and to consolidate to the water district, do they have to give up the well that they have? It's not a requirement, and I would suggest the board might consider this so we have an answer for people when we're going forward. It's not a requirement of the grant when we do these consolidations, that they give up their existing wells when the consolidation funds are used from the state. It's my understanding that the water district's policy when they connect someone is they don't require if someone has a well and they connect to the water district system that they don't require that people destroy existing wells. And I mean, our suggestion is that the groundwater authority probably doesn't need to require that. I mean, the same amount of water is pumped out of the basin. If they use the consolidation connection for potable water and the existing well they have for irrigation, it doesn't matter if the water is coming out of the existing well or out of the water district. The water district will pump it if they take it out of the new connections. It's the same amount of water that comes out. We don't see that it's a vital necessity that they destroy their well. One thing we would suggest, though, is since we're, in our shallow well mitigation program, the program includes not only helping to pay for a new well if needed to mitigate the overdraft impacts on shallow wells, but it also includes looking at consolidations for shallow well users. So we're sort of completing the commitment on the shallow well mitigation program by doing this this consolidation, making these pipelines available for water users to hook up. So we would suggest that we get a property owner, if they do participate in the consolidation, to agree that their well is no longer eligible for mitigation through the shallow well mitigation program. They can keep the well, but they wouldn't be able to come back to the groundwater authority and ask for funds to replace it if it needs it at some point. So I'd suggest that we might consider that at a future meeting as a policy that we have. And with that, I'd be glad to answer. This is just an information item. Glad to answer any additional questions that you might have.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll bring it back to the board for any questions or comments for Jeff.
We have our representative from our engineering department who would like to pitch in, please.
Yeah, I'm Renee Marquecha, Chief Engineer with the Water District, and been working with Helena over at Stetson. I just wanted to clarify a couple things. Rademacher Phase 2, besides getting the easements that we need, is ready to go. Plans are approved. We would like help getting those easements. I've talked to 2 out of the 3 property owners. I think we can get 2 of them relatively easy. The other one I just haven't heard from at all. So if the consultant can assist with that, that would be greatly appreciated, because once those are obtained, we're ready to go, and our crew can get that installed. Stark Street is another story. I'm not sure, and I know Jeff didn't mention this. That system is outside district boundaries. We have to go through the LAFCO process to bring them into our boundary first. That takes time. And I think the water district would also have to consider if in the future we've got some other consolidations that might be done, we might want to, expand that boundary. We'd really have to take a look at where we really want to do, because the LAFCO process takes time and you don't want to be doing that often. So I'm concerned about that, and I'm concerned about getting the right-of-way. There's questions about the system itself. Would there be money, and I know there isn't in Rademacher, so I assume there would not be money to hook people up. So how would that be paid for? What help would be there? It's a system that's right now overseen by Kern County Environmental Health. What requirements do they have? What concerns do they have? Will they require that well be destroyed? They might. And I'm concerned about having all of this done before the end of the calendar year. And I don't want to be the one out there trying to still put pipe in the ground and it not being getting done in time. So there is a concern, and I'm not sure the district at this point can make any promise that we can have that done before the end of the calendar year. I think we're pushing to get that done. We have our construction crew, but they also have other projects that they're working on. And I don't want them to feel that pressure. It's about a 3,000 lineal foot extension to connect over to Calvert. So it's not a short extension. And with that, I can answer any questions you might have for me.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board?
Well, a couple. Fortunately, there is the out-of-service area agreement that LAFCO can process as a short-term measure without having to adjust your boundaries. You can get that done a lot more quickly than you can adjust a boundary. So just throw that out there for your consideration. Commonly used. The idea, though, is ultimately that you're going to incorporate that area at some point in time in the future, which might be done all at once with a bunch of other areas, as you mentioned. So anyway, just food for thought, planting that seed for you. Does the water district have any issues with regard to the question about wells that exist and then tying a system into that area? And are there operational issues and concerns
Normally,
there?
our policy has not been a requirement to destroy a well, but we do require a backflow prevention device be put on the connection.
In short, they're not allowed to connect their well to our system or have any possibility of the water from their well connecting to our system.
Makes sense. Yeah, and I guess my only other thought on maybe there's others, but currently my only other thought for that question is whether or not this might entice what would otherwise be a de minimis well user to now use a whole bunch more water because they have different options for how they're going to use the well, and so ultimately increase the amount of water that's pumped from the basin. Not sure that's a reality, but just something percolating in my mind that came up with this question being raised. Because obviously if they serve 4 or more, they're not de minimis. We would continue to get their reports annually. We would continue to charge them for their water, but if there are, let me see, like Cole Smith, I only see 2 connections there perhaps, and there might be scenarios where we might want to think about if that is an issue or not. But in general, I'm not hearing anything that's really pushing us to strongly consider requiring capping a well if it's been integrated into the water district system. But just making sure that I'm not missing anything to consider in that regard.
The county might require it, the state might require it as part of, the whole process, I would imagine. I did want to mention one thing, because we were approached by Self-Help Enterprises, because they are doing the water hauling, and they have been out there for a couple years.
Yeah.
Because they are being pushed by the State Water Resources Control Board, who is funding that, to find a permanent solution for them. They are not going to fund a new well out there.
Yeah.
And there are emergency funds available through the State Water Resources Control Board in order to get this done if we can't do it through this grant. I had brought up, well, we have this existing grant, perhaps we can do it that way. So if we don't do it this way, I will still be working with them to see if we can get that done via a different grant.
Well, thanks for that. And did I hear that you were requesting assistance with rights-of-way agreements?
Absolutely, that would be,
from the Groundwater Authority?
if we can get those from the rest of Rademacher, that would be great.
Is there someone, Carol, that we might have help assist with that? I'm not sure.
I've been in touch with Helena. Maybe she needs direction from the board on that, I don't know.
Do you have the actual easements now?
We have the easement documents all written up. We've sent them to them various times. I've talked to a couple of them. One of them who lives out of town, well, 2 of them that live out of town. One of them was the gentleman who said, well, I want to guarantee that, part of the grant is that they're going to get the fees, the connection fees paid for. I told him that. But he wanted something in writing. And I'm like, well, the district's really not going to provide something a legal document in writing for that.
Can we put up the other map for a second? I'll ask the question this way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I understand you're drafting an easement, but everybody on Rademacher right now has an access. Everybody on Gordon has an access. Are you saying that's because they have a private easement?
Yes.
Are those on section lines? What does
Yes.
that private easement say?
Our legal has looked at it and says that we can't go in those easements. There are no dedications for roads out there.
Well, you don't have to have a dedication for road, but it would probably have utility services in there. in the
There are
easement.
utility services in
So
there.
can we see the easement? Because if it's a utility service, the current easement should be okay.
You're welcome to take a look at everything. I believe I've sent everything to Helena, but if she needs anything
Okay.
more, I can send it to her.
All right, thank you.
I'm expecting could be wrong. I'm expecting the Water District's legal counsel isn't going to want to have a different opinion from our legal counsel. I could be wrong about that. And if they want to have
Whatever
that
gets
conversation,
gets it done,
that's
I'm
fine.
all right.
So I guess what I'm asking is, aside from maybe there's a simple legal solution kind of thing, assuming that that's not readily available, is there someone that the Groundwater Authority has to help? Like, it'd really be a communication issue, it sounds like, with the individual property owners.
And one of them's in a trust from a lady and her sister who lives in Florida, and she called me. I talked to her for about 40 minutes, and I sent it to her, and she sent it back basically all rewritten. And we just haven't had a chance to go through it and look at it, and maybe we can agree to her rewritten easement. And then there's the third one. The person actually lives locally, and they just have not responded to us, so.
Like, Mr. Chair, in that regard, I would ask that we direct staff to provide whatever outreach we can reasonably provide to these individual property owners, and hopefully assist in coordination with the Water District of getting those easements in place sooner rather than later. It may not be a practical reality that we're able to achieve,
But we'll definitely help in any way we can.
Yeah, I'm thinking if something comes directly from the Groundwater Authority verifying, yeah, we have this grant money and this is gonna get done and you're gonna get a connection, and then maybe then they'll be more agreeable. And that you don't have to destroy your well, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely do whatever we can to support that.
Okay. Anything else for me?
that's all I had.
Any other questions from the board?
This is Steve. I wanted to thank Renee for providing that information. It's very helpful. Thank you.
Go ahead, sir. George Kroll, General Manager of the Water District. I do want to say that, we're happy to be working collaboratively with you on the Rademacher. Just to be clear, we want to help with Stark Street as well and other ones, other consolidations that can be facilitated working together. And I would like to suggest that you ask your staff to, have perhaps a meeting with our engineering staff so we can sort of bounce ideas back. And we understand that the grant has a time limit. We can reasonably expect to support Rademacher under that time limit, probably reasonably cannot support the Stark Street under that time limit unless there's an extension. So if there's some other way we can help, we would like to work collaboratively with the Groundwater Authority to figure out how to put those funds to the best possible use so that make sure they do go to a good use.
We'll be reaching out, George, this is Steve. We'll be reaching out right away to try to schedule that kind of coordination with you guys right away.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, George. Any other public comment from the floor?
Yeah, this is Judy Decker again. As you reminded yourselves, you paid some money to the Stark Street system several years ago. I'll also remind you that you paid for a well for Mr. Byerly, who is kitty corner from the Stark Street system. And I will remind you also that there are hundreds of small co-ops and mutuals who are going to be in the same situation as Stark Street in the next few years. I brought up earlier my concern about pushing these people onto the water district. It will force the water district to pump more water out of their large wells instead of having many smaller wells that have less of an impact on a large area. And you need to think about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Renee Westerlusk, I have questions about the amount of the grant. Originally for the urban development grant was 3.3 million. And then in the report, I guess on top of the third page, the first paragraph, it says, after completion of the 2 consolidation projects. Now, when it says that there's 1,257,000 grant monies left. When they're referring to those 2 consolidation projects, are you talking about Rademacher 1 and 2?
Yes.
Okay. That would be Rademacher 1 and 2, and then also with the addition of Stark Street, if we were to do that.
Yeah, thank you, Elena.
So you're saying the Stark Street, you'd have 1,257,000 to pay for Stark Street?
No, that's the amount of grant funds that will not be utilized after having completed Stark Street as well.
Oh, okay. All right, and then I wanted to know what happened to the $31,000 that the GA approved for the Stark Street well a couple of years ago. Did they ever use that money? And was the money ever given to the
No.
Stark Street?
No, the board authorized that money could be used for drilling a new well there. but they never drilled a new well. And the way the program works is, we don't just give out the money ahead of time. If they drill the well and the board has authorized the funds and they submit an invoice showing that the well's been drilled, then the groundwater authority provides the money afterwards as a reimbursement. So the money's never been expended. The groundwater authority's not giving them the money.
Okay, thank you.
Just a side note for the public, a new well is in the range of about $100,000 in the ballpark.
In reference to the Stark Street?
And if you're gonna drill a well in the valley, it's gonna be about $100,000 for domestic uses, ballpark.
Yeah, they had an estimate from Garrison of about 90,000, but that was a couple of years ago. So I agree with the director, ballpark 100,000.
I have another comment. This is Judy Decker. Something you could do, put on your website for the de minimis well owner is a list of well owners in the general area. Those of you on the board know that we only have one well driller here. It is Garrison Brothers. They are extremely expensive in the way they operate because they pull their pipe at the end of every day. So then the next day they have to reassemble their drill pipe and put it back in. They do not work past a certain time. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. So I have a question in regards to the Stark Street well. Because it stated that some of the residents wish to not be consolidated and that, so drilling a well, if we run into time constraints, because of what was stated before about LAFCO and that area not being in the sphere of influence from the water district, and we don't want to have this, well, two questions. One, do we know how long the conversation with the DWR as far as getting a grant extension will take? Does anybody know?
We spoke with DWR yesterday briefly. We had initially made this request about a month or two ago for grant extension, and we met with the grant program manager, who basically said they're not extending any grants specifically because the funding for the program will be up in, I believe, June of 2027. And so they would like to close out as many grants as they can as soon as possible. And yesterday we brought up the possible extension again. And again, they said that they would prefer if we not extend it, but if we have a concrete plan that we can give to them with, a schedule and deliverables, and if that timeline could potentially be done by April at the latest, April 2027, they would maybe consider that, but it will be very unlikely that they would grant the extension.
Okay, so because they do state that that they recommend or have directed staff to amend grant deliverables instead of extension, and also that the grant program manager has informed staff that grant deliverables should be projects that provide immediate physical benefits to the community. And so with the time constraints and looking at, the LAFCO estimations of 4 months, the questionable feedback from DWR and whether they would or would not extend it, it just seems like it'd behoove us to put this as a primary project and use that money to get that well drilled and satisfy an immediate benefit to the community. And so what would it take to get that put as like a priority and utilize some of this money that we have?
Oh, well, the grant that we have, we can't utilize for drilling a well. It's specifically for consolidating, these small well owners into the water district. Now, the money that the board has already authorized for redrilling the well is still available. But as Director mentioned, it's maybe $100,000 well, and the GA is making about $30,000 available. They haven't been able to fund the rest of that yet. The timeline for the LAFCO, I think was that's mentioned in the staff report is, I think, that the typical time for sort of the process, as Renee had discussed it. Director Vallejo has given us maybe a shorter route to explore through LAFCO to try and get that done. And we'll certainly be talking to the water district about trying to utilize that and cut down the time we have here. And I would say that your general manager, Carol, had asked us to try and take these talks about extending the deadline for the grant maybe to a higher level. I mean, we are talking to the program manager, maybe go even higher than that. So we'll be working with Capital Corps potentially to try and have some higher level discussions. I mean, the DWR may have some limits to how long they can go, but we want to try and get those extended out as far as we can.
Chairman, if I may, when it comes to Stark Street, you do not have to process a full annexation right now. As Chairman Vallejo was saying, and he jumped because I was going to jump in there too, you can do an out-of-area service letter to provide them service, let the water district to do that through LAFCO. That's a quick process. The next part of this that I would mention is, right now, the state of California is spending money to haul water out there. They're going to want to give us the opportunity to tie that in so they don't have to haul water. So, the fact that we have a grant manager here who's supposed to manage grants and checks boxes telling us that they wouldn't give us an extension is not surprising, but it's also not surprising in the end. We're going to get an extension if we have a time frame to put this in because they want to stop hauling that water. And as you heard, they're not going to drill a well. The state isn't showing up with the extra 70, 80. We talked about $100,000 today. I believe the estimate for that one was 125, if I recall. So, yeah, nobody's showing up with the extra $100,000.
Okay. Any other comments from the board?
If there's nothing else, just kind of as a matter of a big picture process for us as board members, because I've heard it from the public at this point, I've heard it from a couple board members, questions that we're asking that are actually answered with what's in the packet. But the problem is we're getting these packets so late still, and it's really hard to digest what's information's in there in time to be here and have thoughtful, informed discussion without learning on the fly. When the packets come so late. And so I just really want to emphasize the need to get these agenda packets out earlier so that we're not asking questions to educate ourselves, but we're really asking questions to help educate the public, because that's really what I believe our role should be up here if we're going to be asking questions. And so that we can really think through, consider, ask questions that we need to ask of ourselves before we actually get to the dais here. Because it isn't the best way to operate to get these staff reports at the last minute, essentially. So if I could just put that request back out to staff to please do what we can to get these packets out well ahead of time, because it is an operational issue for us and our ability to be effective from the dais.
Thank you. We appreciate that perspective. We'll do our best to get the packet out as soon following the agenda as we can. Often we hold it because we're trying to finalize just a couple of things, and we try to send a full packet, but maybe it would be helpful to send a partial packet earlier, and then the delayed items a little later.
Yep, I think everybody would be in agreement with that, so thank you. All right, this is a non-action item, so there will be no action taken on it, and if there's no further comments, then we will move on to item number 12, the Water Resources Manager Report. This will be with Steve and Stetson Engineering.
Yeah, I think Jeff's going to provide it.
Oh, okay. I saw you were still there. I was just going to highlight a couple of things. You have our written, the Water Resource Manager's written report. I want to highlight just a couple of things in there. Under the Sigma IP grant report, the Groundwater Authority did receive a payment for DWR reimbursement under the grant of a little over $400,000. We've got another smaller invoice into them, waiting for them to review and approve that. Under the Urban Community Drought Relief Program that we were just talking about, that grant program and what we're doing under that, the Groundwater Authority received $173,000 payment from the DWR, and we have another smaller invoice into them that they're reviewing, and we'll be looking for payment under that. There's quite a few items under the imported water project that are reported. There wasn't anything in particular there I wanted to highlight, other than it includes, sorry, a summary of Blue Mountain's activities, Omar's activities, and as I'd mentioned earlier, his planning that he's doing, some of the critical items that he's identified that he wants to go back with the consultants and with us and review and, kind of value engineer, see if there's anything we want to do different on a few of those things. Let's see, the other thing I wanted to point out was under item 12C in our report, the miscellaneous items under data collection and monitoring. We usually don't say much about that. We do go out twice a year working with Kern County and get groundwater levels, and once a year we gather water quality water quality samples. We have been noting some problems as we've been doing that with some of the wells. We have problems with a few of the wells we've been monitoring where we can't get a water level measurement, or we can't pull a water quality sample. We went out in November with some video equipment that we rented and put the video equipment down the hole to identify what problems we were having. And even where our staff, and I'll say some of you out there know Stefan Bork, who worked out on the base for quite a while. He's familiar with the groundwater base, and he's a geologist. He retired from the base. I'm not sure we have ever mentioned that he works for us part-time. He does our field work out there, gathers our water level samples and water quality samples. And in addition to being an excellent field geologist, he's great at report writing, has knowledge of the basin. He identified some of the problems with some of the wells. We're still looking at how maybe to resolve some of those, but a couple of the wells, and more importantly, one of the USBR wells, USBR1, had a couple of its sampling tubes. We weren't able to get some water samples, water levels, and he made a tool and went and fished. After he saw in the video there was just trash in the hole, he created a tool and went and cleared that out of there. So now we can get water levels out of those two levels. So, that's an ongoing program we haven't mentioned once. I just wanted to mention, we are trying to make it better, improve our program, keep it maintained, and had some progress in that. That's all I had to report. I'd be glad to answer any questions if anybody has any on the Water Resource Manager's report.
Thank you, Jeff. Bring it back to the board for any questions or comments. No. Hearing none, we'll bring it to the floor for public comment. Renee, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question regarding the Rose Valley monitoring well that you've been trying to get drilled, I think, for over 2 years now. Because I think you started on this like fall of 2023. How much longer? Because it seems like you need that monitoring well for more accurate data.
I'm glad you asked me that question this month and not last month. One of our main issues is to get all the, we went out to drill a second well, I don't know, over a year ago, and we hit refusal. We couldn't, the well driller couldn't complete the well in that location. So we went and found another location. We had to go back when we did that through all the permitting processes, the environmental review. We got hung up with BLM. They've had some personnel changes. Frankly, they have prioritized our imported water project. That, of course, is a huge environmental review, big project for them. And thankfully, they've prioritized the imported water project. But with all the time they're spending on the imported water project, everything else they have to do, and with the personnel changes, we hadn't been able to move all of the permitting and approvals we needed through the BLM process to get that second okayed for drilling. Just in the last month, we've had some movement on that. They've actually got someone, I think it's a biologist, I'm sure it's in my report, a biologist from another office, not the Ridgecrest office, because I think the biologist there at the Ridgecrest office left, but another biologist is helping the Ridgecrest office. She's reached out to, again, this is Stefan Bork who's handling this, who I mentioned worked on the base. He also represented the Navy on the TAC back when we were putting the GSP together. I should have mentioned that. So he knows, a lot of the aspects of these, but Stefan's been coordinating with her. She reached out to him to get some information. So we've finally got some movement on that, Renee. So we're hopeful we can get those clearances and get out and get this drilled.
Renee, to get straight to it, there's a bullet point in the packet that the contract deadline was extended to August 31st, 2026 for completing the RVS monitoring well project. So that's the new deadline that we're looking at. It's the last page of that report.
Oh, okay, I see it now. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Renee. Any other public comment from the floors?
Judy Decker, I have a question actually. You mentioned that you took water quality samples once a year. Have you observed an increase in the degradation of the water quality in the northwest part of the valley?
Judy, I can't say that I've looked at our latest round of data. I depend on when the staff had just started putting the annual report together for next year, and that's when I really look at it, is when I'm reviewing the annual reports. I can't personally answer that question, but I'll talk to the staff that's been looking at that and get you an answer on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Any public comment from the phones? Seeing none, we'll move to item number 13, the general manager's report, and that will be with Carol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you have in your packet the monthly financials. This is as it's titled, the year-end report in progress. We are just trying to collect everything for the end of our calendar and fiscal year. So this is, as it says, report in progress for end of the year. Happy to answer questions if you have any. The next item is our outreach report, and as we've talked about before, we're in the progress of updating our website and actually migrating our data to the new one. And I think, April, we're ready to share some actual slides of what the website looks like. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this will be, yeah, it is exciting.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know if you can see it on your screens there, but it is up over on the TV screens.
Oh, there.
So this is going to be the home page. Oh, and there it is back there. This will be the cover when people get to our website. There's a little blurb about the GA. There'll be some highlight items that we can change as we move and grow. We can change those items as well. Then kind of go down to the bottom, just to the normal things you would see on a web page. Contact info, stay in touch, who's all part of our JPA. And then up here are the tabs where they'll be able to click through. These don't work yet, so you'll see all these different pages at the top. I'm going to just go through. There is an about page. This image is just a stock image at the moment, so that will change once the website's actually migrated. Down here, we'll just have who we are, our history, values, and mission statement. So we will be coming back for probably some of those opinions and a board recommendation on those as well. Next is a board members and staff page. we will have, I believe it is a new requirement as well under the Brown Act that we have to list, which we do currently, but we also will have to list each board member's emails as well. So I will be reaching out to your staff for that. And as we go down, you'll see staff, there's still some edits to be made. And these will be all of the headshots which we've gathered either from your home pages or I've already reached out to you to grab one. Next, we have a contact page, which I think will be very helpful. We have just the basic kind of template fillable. They can put in here their message. I will email or reach out to them in whatever form they prefer, and they can submit, and it'll just go straight through to my emails. Next, we have an FAQ page. These, you've probably noticed most of this is still in Latin. That will change. The FAQs are still being worked on, and they're, from what I've heard, there's quite a bit of them, so that's very great for the public, very informative. There'll be drop-down tabs, so it'll have the question here, you know, how do I register my well? They can click on this sign, and it'll give them either the direct link to the website or an informational way to reach out to me, how they'd go about that process. Then we have the meetings and agenda page. This one I was very excited about because I think our current setup is a bit overwhelming if you're just trying to find certain things. So each tab will drop down for the year. Right now they all only have one, but it will be the entire year. But it's just cleaner because if you're only looking into 2022, everything else can shrink, so you can just highlight that year. And then it will have the minutes, agenda, and any supplemental documents that either came out after the board packet was published or public comments that we received after the meeting. Next, we will have press releases. Here, of course, this tab will also be updated as we have different op-eds or things we would like to post to our website. There is a way to filter the press releases by date, by name. This says by size. That's just the template gave those options. I'm thinking we'll either filter by project or by keywords. So if they're looking for litigation items, they can tap that. If they're looking for the pipeline design, they can put that in there and it will bring up all the press releases or op-eds that are related to those keywords. And then once they click on one of these squares, it will take them to the individual page, which would be the press release title up here at the top in the image, and then the related press release. And then down at the bottom, it will also have another category where they could kind of follow down on related items as well. Gives them that option or that ability to follow the story. And I believe that is all the pages. We will bring this back again as we make more headway on it. And I am happy to take any questions or comments, suggestions, and from the public as well. We are always looking for feedback on the website and how we can make it easier for you to move around. So if you have any questions or comments, you can email them to me.
Very good. I just want to say good job. I think it looks really good at this point, and I think it'd be a benefit to the community having a new website with a easily accessible format and data, so I like it. Any other comments from the board? Okay. Any public comment from the floor?
Yes, Renee West Delusk. At the last meeting, April, and you informed us that you were only going to have the archives going back to 2020. I don't understand why you can't go further back, because in 2018 is when they approved the extraction fee, and that's part of the history. And I kind of, if people want to look at that, you know, if they're unfamiliar, I don't know, I think it should be on there.
And the ordinance for that, which is 0218, will still be on the website. It just would be the relating board packet that has other things in there that, I just didn't want to crowd the website, because that is one of the comments I get the most, is that it is hard to find certain things. So in an effort to make the more important things easier to find, I would have to get rid of, the unrelated documents. But those are all things, Renee, I appreciate the comment, and if I can squeeze in the other years and still make sure that it is user-friendly, I definitely will make sure that we do that.
Okay, because I think if you go further back, there may be some interested in the history because they were left out of the loop for a long time. Okay, thank you.
Don Decker. I have, for literally years, been pointing out to Stetson the advantage of shallow digital seismic surveys rather than drilling wells. There are times when you really need to drill a well when you want to know, when you need a water sample, for example. But for ordinary purposes, looking at flow gradients, the shallow digital seismic is the way to go. You can cover a huge amount of territory. It doesn't require any heavy equipment. It's all portable. There's no miles of wire you've got to lay out. It's all digital RF connections. In all of this, I have never received one contact from Stetson requesting any further information. And I think it's basically just sitting there with nothing happening. And this is a comment to Stetson. If you want me to give you some contacts, I most certainly will. The benefit of the digital seismic, I guess I can't emphasize enough. You gain a lot of information, and you don't have to spend a lot of money or time. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
I'm telling you this as a TAC member. I'm not just somebody. I'm actually telling you something that you need to know.
Thank you for your comments, Don. Any public comments from the phone? Seeing none, that concludes our meeting. Our next meeting will be February 11th of 2026, and we are now adjourned.